My name is Claire Mercer. I'm 40 years old, and I spend my working days tracing the paper trail that proves who has the legal right to sell a house. On the morning of my 40th birthday, an automated title alert informed me that somebody had sold mine. That evening, my mother served dinner at my dining table, waited until everyone had finished the cake, and slid one empty moving box across the table toward me. "Take what matters," she said. "The buyer will be here in 12 minutes." My older sister had listed the property. My mother had signed the deed. And my 30-year-old brother Lucas was upstairs in the room they had already promised to a stranger. They had also arranged to move him into a residential facility the following morning. Nobody had asked whether he wanted to go. Nobody had asked whether I wanted to sell. My mother believed she didn't need either answer. "You can make a home anywhere," she told me. "Lucas needs stability." That sentence had controlled my entire childhood. It was also the sentence that finally broke her plan apart. Because 12 minutes later, the buyer walked through my front door expecting an empty house. Instead, he found my whole family sitting around a birthday cake, one stolen deed, and the only person they had spent 30 years refusing to let speak for himself. Before I explain how my family managed to sell my home without asking me, subscribe to Silent Karma Stories. Tell me in the comments, has anyone ever praised you for being adaptable right before they took something that belonged to you? My family used a different word, flexible. I was the flexible child. Lucas was the child who needed stability. Those roles were assigned before either of us was old enough to object. I was 10 when Lucas was born. My sister Natalie was 13. Our mother, Diane, had already turned our suburban home outside Asheville, North Carolina, into the kind of place where every towel matched and every appointment lived on a calendar beside the refrigerator. My father, Robert, repaired commercial refrigeration systems and believed most family problems could be solved by lowering his voice and leaving the room. Lucas was a quiet baby, then he became a quiet toddler. At 2, he still wasn't speaking. At 3, he covered his ears when the vacuum ran and lined wooden blocks across the floor according to color. At 4, a specialist told my parents he was autistic. My mother heard the diagnosis as a command. She read everything. She attended workshops. She learned insurance codes, school regulations, sensory strategies, and every acronym available to a frightened parent. She fought for services. She fought teachers. She fought relatives who said Lucas only needed discipline. She became very good at fighting. The problem was that eventually she stopped noticing when the person on the other side was Lucas. My mother loved him fiercely. She also treated every unexpected choice he made as a danger that needed to be corrected. His food was scheduled, his clothes were arranged by day, his teachers received typed instructions. When he was 6, he began speaking in full sentences. My mother celebrated by creating a laminated chart of acceptable conversation topics. That was Diane Mercer. She could turn a miracle into paperwork before lunch. I loved Lucas too. He was funny in a way people missed because he delivered jokes with the same expression he used to discuss weather. When he was 7, my father asked him what he wanted for Christmas. Lucas said, "A quieter Christmas." My father laughed. Lucas didn't. The following year, we stopped inviting 23 relatives. That was one of the few times the family changed for him, instead of asking him to endure us. Most of the time, the adjustments traveled in the opposite direction. Lucas couldn't sleep if someone used the upstairs bathroom after 9, so I moved into the basement. Lucas became overwhelmed by crowded restaurants, so my birthday dinners happened at home. Lucas needed our mother available after school, so I learned to drive myself to debate tournaments. Lucas struggled when plans changed, so my plans became the ones that changed. Whenever I protested, my mother gave me the same careful smile. "You're flexible, Claire." At first, I believed it was praise. Then I noticed praise always arrived with instructions. "You're flexible, Claire. Let Natalie have the car." "You're flexible, Claire. Your father needs you to cancel." "You're flexible, Claire. Lucas can't handle another transition." The sentence meant I could survive disappointment, so disappointment belonged to me. Natalie adapted differently. She learned that the loudest need controlled the room. She became practical, polished, and excellent at presenting her preferences as solutions. By high school, she organized family vacations, selected restaurants, and told people where to sit. She later became a real estate agent. No one was surprised. Natalie had always enjoyed deciding where other people belonged. The high escaped into records. At 17, I took a summer job at the County Register of Deeds office, scanning old property documents. I loved the certainty of them. People could revise memories. They could say a promise had been misunderstood, or a sacrifice had been voluntary. But a deed recorded at 3:42 on a Tuesday stayed exactly what it was. Names, dates, signatures, boundaries, the truth reduced to ink. That job led to paralegal courses, then work at a title company, then a career examining ownership histories for complicated residential and commercial sales. By 30, I could look at a chain of title and find the one missing signature that would stop $1 million closing. I liked work that respected the difference between assumption and authority. My family did not. The first home that ever felt completely mine belonged to my great-aunt Helen. Helen was my grandmother's younger sister. She lived 15 minutes from us, in a cream-colored craftsman house built in 1924, with a deep porch, green shutters, and a detached brick garage behind a small greenhouse. She never married. My mother described that fact as though Helen had misplaced a husband somewhere and been too stubborn to look for him. Helen worked for 40 years as a high school librarian. She wore silver rings, drank coffee from chipped mugs, and refused to lower the television when anyone complained. When I was 16, after Lucas's therapy schedule required the basement to become a sensory room, my mother told me I could sleep in the den, temporarily. Temporary meant a sofa bed beside the front window with no door. Helen heard about it at Sunday lunch. She drove me to her house that afternoon. Upstairs, she opened a small bedroom with faded blue wallpaper and an iron bed. A flattened cardboard box sat in the middle of the floor. "What's that?" I asked. "An empty box. I can see that. You Mercers like to decide what people need before asking them." She pointed to the box. "So I'm not furnishing the room for you. Put in it what you want to bring. Leave out what you don't." I stayed that weekend. Then the next. Eventually, the blue room became mine whenever home felt like a place where I had to disappear. Helen never told me I was flexible. She told me I was allowed to have preferences. There is a difference. She also understood Lucas better than most adults did. Not because she had special training, because she asked him questions and waited through the silence. When he was 12, she asked whether he wanted to tour her greenhouse. He said no. My mother began explaining that he sometimes needed encouragement. Helen said, "He answered me." 10 minutes later, Lucas walked into the greenhouse on his own. He spent the next hour sorting seed packets by the months printed on the back. From then on, he visited every Saturday. Helen gave him one shelf, then two. By 20, he worked part-time at the city botanical garden, maintaining propagation trays and updating plant labels. He could memorize the light requirements of 200 plant species. He could travel the same bus route independently. He needed help with sudden changes, complicated finances, medical forms, and unfamiliar social situations. He was not incapable, he was uneven, so are most people. His needs were simply easier to see. Helen died when I was 31, a stroke. Fast enough that no one had time to arrange the room around her. She left the house to me, not to the family, not to my mother with instructions to divide it fairly. To me. Her will contained one sentence after the legal description. "I leave this home to Claire Mercer, who understands that shelter and permission are not the same thing." My mother read the sentence twice. Natalie said Helen had always been dramatic. My father said we should avoid letting property come between us. The property was already mine. But in my family, ownership was treated as the opening position of a negotiation. My mother suggested I sell and place the money into a family security account. Natalie offered to list it without charging her full commission. My father thought I should let Lucas use the greenhouse. That was the only suggestion I accepted. I moved into Helen's house. Lucas continued visiting on Saturdays. We restored the greenhouse together. He replaced broken panes. I repaired the irrigation. He planted herbs in exact alphabetical order until Helen's old garden looked alive again. A year later, I began converting the detached garage into a small apartment. It had one bedroom, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a walk-in shower, and windows facing the greenhouse. The plan was not to move Lucas in without support. The plan was gradual independence. One overnight, then weekends, then perhaps 4 nights a week. A support worker could visit. He could keep his job. My mother could remain involved without managing every hour of his life. Lucas chose the paint. A muted green called Fern Hollow. He chose open shelving because cabinet doors made him forget what was inside. He helped map the bus route from the house to the botanical garden. We practiced grocery shopping. We created an emergency checklist, not a chart imposed on him, a notebook he wrote himself. The cover said, "My house plan." My mother called it unrealistic. He cannot live alone. He wouldn't be alone, I said. I'd be 20 yards away. What happens if you travel? We arrange support. What happens if he panics? We create a plan. What happens when you meet someone and want your own life? I already have my own life. She gave me the look mothers reserve for daughters whose lives do not match the brochure. At 36, I was unmarried. I had no children. I owned a house with 3 bedrooms and a second living space under construction. To my mother, that looked like unused capacity. Unused capacity in our family was never allowed to remain unused. "You don't know what full-time responsibility is," she told me. That was unfair. It was also partly true. My mother had spent 30 years being the first call. School emergencies, insurance disputes, medical appointments, transportation, meltdowns. Benefits paperwork. She had done real work. Exhausting work. Work the rest of us had allowed her to carry because she carried it so efficiently. My father helped, but my mother managed. Natalie visited. I offered plans. Diane lived the daily reality. Her fear of Lucas's future did not come from nowhere. But fear can begin as protection and end as control without changing its voice. The power of attorney began with my appendix. 7 years before my 40th birthday, I developed appendicitis during a work trip. It ruptured. An infection spread. I spent 9 days in intensive care and another 2 weeks in the hospital. The first 48 hours were frightening enough that a hospital social worker asked whether someone could temporarily manage my finances and property. I was heavily medicated. My mother was there. A hospital notary came to the room. I signed a durable financial power of attorney naming Diane Mercer as my agent. That allowed her to pay bills, handle insurance, and manage real property if necessary. At the time, it felt like paperwork. My mother paid my mortgage. She communicated with the contractor working on the garage apartment. She kept everything running. When I recovered, I thanked her. I took back control of my accounts. I never formally revoked the document. I knew better. I examined powers of attorney for a living. But people are careless in the places they feel safe. For 7 years, the document sat in my mother's locked filing cabinet. Then my father died. A heart attack in the garage on a Wednesday morning. He was 68. His death rearranged my mother, not visibly. Diane still answered messages, paid bills, and organized the funeral with brutal efficiency. But after 39 years of marriage, she had lost the one person who quietly absorbed her fear. Lucas lived with her. Within weeks, she began asking what would happen to him if she died too. I reopened the conversation about the garden apartment. She refused. "Your father understood why it wouldn't work." "Dad never said that." "He didn't have to." Lucas began staying with me one weekend each month anyway. He cooked the same 3 meals. He worked in the greenhouse. He walked to the corner store. He called my mother every evening at 7. The first weekend, he slept in his clothes. The third weekend, he left a toothbrush. By the 6th, he asked whether he could have a key. I gave him one attached to a green cord. My mother found out and became furious. "He cannot be responsible for a house key. He manages keys at work. That is different." Because someone else decided he was capable? Because his supervisor is trained. I'm trained too. You're his sister. The implication was clear. The family could control him. Family could not support him. After my father's death, Natalie became more involved. She began visiting my mother twice a week. She reviewed bills. She attended appointments. She also began discussing the value of Helen's house. The neighborhood had changed. A hospital expansion nearby pushed prices up. Developers bought older homes, renovated them, and resold them to professionals moving into the area. Natalie estimated my property could sell for nearly $520,000. I told her it was not for sale. 6 months later, she asked again. I told her the same thing. 3 months before my 40th birthday, my mother announced she had toured a residential community called Hawthorne House. It was designed for adults who needed structured support, private rooms, staff around the clock, transportation, organized activities. It was not a bad place. That matters too. The rooms were clean, the staff appeared kind. Some residents were happy there, but a good place for one person can still be the wrong place for another. Lucas did not want to move to Hawthorne House. He had never visited. My mother told him it was something for later. Then she told me the monthly cost. The $6,800. His benefits and part-time income covered less than a third. The house could fund it, Natalie said. We were eating lunch at my mother's kitchen table. What house? She looked at me as though we were all too intelligent for the question. Helen's. My house. The family house, my mother corrected. It has never been the family house. Lucas spent half his childhood there. That doesn't make it his. My mother's eyes hardened. Interesting. What is? How quickly ownership matters when it benefits you. I understood then that the apartment had not reassured her. It had threatened her. Lucas moved into my property with support. My mother would no longer be the center of every decision. Her daily burden would decrease. So would her authority. Those two things had become tangled. Natalie leaned forward. No one is taking anything from you. You would receive the sale proceeds. I don't want the proceeds. You're 40, Claire. You can buy something newer. I want this house. You always adapt. My mother said it softly. The old sentence wearing new clothes. You can make a home anywhere. I looked at her. Then why can't Lucas? She ended the conversation. The morning of my birthday began with rain. I woke at 6:20, fed the cat, and made coffee. Lucas was staying in the garden apartment that week, because my mother had gone to visit a cousin in Raleigh. He had already left for work. A note on the counter said, "Greenhouse fan making metal sound. Do not ignore. Happy birthday." That was Lucas's version of affection. At 7:03, my phone displayed an automated email from the County Recording Alert Service. I had subscribed years earlier, because title fraud happens more often than people think. The alert said a deed connected to my name had been recorded the previous afternoon. I opened it while standing barefoot in my kitchen. The document transferred Helen's property from Claire E. Mercer to Blue Elm Residential Holdings LLC sale price, $368,000. The signature block read, Diane Mercer, attorney-in-fact for Claire E. Mercer. My mother's signature sat beneath it. The power of attorney from the hospital was attached. Natalie's brokerage appeared on the transaction. My sister had signed as listing agent. For several seconds, I did not move. Then training took over. I downloaded every page. I checked the recording number. I searched Blue Elm Residential Holdings. It belonged to a local investor named Simon Vale. The deed was real. The authority behind it was not simple. A valid power of attorney can allow an agent to sell property, but the agent has a fiduciary duty to act for the owner's benefit. My mother had sold a house worth more than $500,000 for $368,000. I had received no notice, no contract, no proceeds. The closing statement listed a trust account I had never seen. Mercer Family Long-Term Care Reserve Trustee, Diane Mercer. My house had been converted into a care fund without my consent. I called my colleague Priya Shah, an attorney at the title company where I worked. She answered with birthday wishes. I interrupted. I need you to look at a deed. 20 minutes later, she called back. Claire, do not sign anything. I haven't. The buyer has title insurance, but this is going to be challenged. The power of attorney gives her broad authority, but the below-market sale and redirection of proceeds are serious problems. Can they take possession? The deed is recorded. That isn't what I asked. Possession is scheduled for when? I checked the closing file. That was when I saw the occupancy addendum. Buyer's final inspection, 7:30 p.m. Property to be vacant by 8 a.m. the following day. I'm having dinner with them at 6, I said. Priya became quiet. Did they invite you? My mother said she wanted the family together for my birthday. Claire, I know. Call the police if anyone tries to remove you. This is a civil title dispute. It becomes something else if they touch your belongings. I thanked her. Then I called the closing attorney's office. No one returned the message. I called Natalie. Voicemail. I called my mother. She answered immediately. Happy birthday. Her voice was too bright. I received a title alert. Silence. Not surprise. Calculation. Come to dinner, she said. We'll explain everything. At my house? Yes. Why is dinner at my house? Because that's where everyone will be. Who is everyone? 6 o'clock, Claire. She hung up. I could have filed an emergency action that morning. I could have changed the locks. I could have confronted them separately. Instead, I spent the day following the paper. That is what I do when people lie. I don't chase their words. I check where the words lead. The trust account had been created 6 weeks earlier. Its stated purpose was residential care for Lucas. The initial trustee was my mother. The successor trustee was Natalie. The beneficiary was Lucas. On paper, it looked responsible, almost noble. Then I found the distribution section. The trust could reimburse Diane for past and future caregiving expenses. It could purchase replacement housing for the trustee if caring for Lucas required relocation. The could pay real estate and management fees to related parties if commercially reasonable. My mother could use the proceeds to buy herself a condominium near Hawthorne House. Natalie could receive her commission. The money remaining would fund Lucas's placement. Everyone's future had been financed with my property. I also found the Hawthorne House admission agreement. Someone had uploaded it to the transaction file as evidence of the trust's purpose. Move-in date. The following morning. Lucas's signature appeared on the last page. The letters were uneven, too small. I knew his signature. This was close enough to fool a stranger, not close enough to fool me. I drove home at 4:30. 2 cars were already in the driveway. Natalie's white SUV, my mother's gray sedan. Inside, the dining table had been set with Helen's dishes. That detail hurt more than it should have. My family had entered with the spare key Lucas carried. They had used the house as though the deed had made every boundary disappear. My mother stood at the stove. Natalie arranged flowers. My Aunt Carol sat in the living room with 2 cousins. A banner hung across the doorway. 40 and fabulous. The word fabulous had lost 1 silver letter and read like a threat. Surprise, Natalie said. I placed my bag near the door. Where is Lucas? Upstairs, my mother said. Why? He needed quiet. Did he come from your house? He's been here all afternoon. The dining room contained 6 flattened moving boxes against the wall. I touched one. Natalie smiled in a way meant to look sympathetic. We'll explain after dinner. No. My mother turned from the stove. Claire, you sold my house. Aunt Carol lowered her wineglass. One cousin looked at the other. Not everyone knew. Natalie spoke first. You saw the filing. I work in title. We knew you'd see it eventually. Eventually was this morning. My mother set down the serving spoon. We made a necessary decision. You used a power of attorney from an ICU stay 7 years ago. It was still valid. That does not make this your property. It makes me responsible for acting when you refuse to be practical. What did Lucas sign? Her face changed. Only slightly. Enough. Dinner first, she said. No. My family had always relied on the fact that I disliked scenes. They called my silence maturity. My mother looked toward the living room. Everyone came for you. No. They came because you told them this was a birthday dinner. Aunt Carol stood. Diane, what is happening? My mother inhaled slowly. Then she did what she always did when control slipped. She organized the room. Everyone sit down. We sat. Not because she had authority, because years of training are difficult to interrupt all at once. Dinner lasted 41 minutes. I know, because I watched the clock. My mother served lemon rosemary chicken. Natalie discussed interest rates. My cousin mentioned a school fundraiser. No one said the word house. Lucas did not come downstairs. At 6:58, my mother carried in a chocolate cake. The frosting said, "Happy 40th Claire Mai." My name was missing the final E. The bakery had made a mistake. My mother had not noticed. Everyone sang. I watched 40 candles burn above a misspelled name inside a house they had sold without me. It was almost too obvious to feel real. "Make a wish," Natalie said. "I already know what I want." My mother blew out one candle that had leaned too close to another. "Then this should be easier." She went to the wall. She opened one of the moving boxes. She folded the bottom flaps into place and set it on the table in front of me. Empty. "Take what matters," she said. Aunt Carol whispered. "Diane," my mother continued. "The sale proceeds are protected for Lucas." Natalie found a buyer willing to close quickly. "I'll move into a smaller condominium near Hawthorne House. You can rent until the legal details are resolved." "The legal details." "You will receive whatever remains after Lucas's long-term care is secured. From the sale of my house. You have a career, savings, options. And that gives you the right to take it? It gives you the ability to recover." There it was. Not flexible this time. Recoverable. My mother could take from me, because she believed I would remain functional afterward. "You can make a home anywhere," she said. "Lucas needs stability." I looked at the empty box. What does Lucas want? He does not understand the long-term consequences. That wasn't my question. He signed the admission agreement. No, he didn't. Natalie leaned forward. "Are you accusing Mom of forging it?" "I'm saying that isn't his signature." My mother's mouth became a thin line. He held the pen. The room went still. "What does that mean?" He became anxious. I guided his hand. Aunt Carol pushed back from the table. "You did what?" He agreed verbally. Did he understand it was a residential admission? He understands Hawthorne House. He has never visited. He has seen photographs. "Did you tell him he was moving tomorrow?" My mother looked toward the ceiling. That was answer enough. I stood. "He's upstairs?" "Claire, sit down." I walked toward the stairs. Natalie grabbed the back of my chair, not me. "The buyer will be here in 12 minutes. I turned. "What?" "Final walkthrough." 7:30? My mother tapped the box. "Choose what you need tonight. The moving company will store the rest." My cousins stared at her. Aunt Carol picked up her purse. "I'm not staying for this." My mother looked offended. "You don't know the full situation." "I know enough to recognize an ambush." She left. The cousins followed. Within 30 seconds, the birthday dinner had become what it had always been. 3 women, 1 empty box, and the family member upstairs whose future had financed the entire thing. I went to Lucas's room. The door was closed. I knocked 3 times. His preferred pattern. "Lucas?" No answer. "It's Claire." "I know. May I come in?" A pause. "Yes." His room had been partially packed. Blue painter's tape labeled drawers. Hawthorne donates storage. His greenhouse clothes were folded on the bed. The green key cord I had given him lay on the dresser. Not around his neck. He sat on the floor beside an open suitcase. "Why is your key there?" I asked. "Mom said the house is not yours now." "It is still mine. She said you sold it because I cost too much." The words entered the room slowly. "What?" "She said Hawthorne is expensive. You sold the house for me." "I did not sell it." He looked at me. Lucas did not make eye contact when people demanded it. He did when he needed to know whether they were lying. "You did not?" "No." "Did you tell Mom I cannot live in the garden apartment?" "No." "She said you decided it was not safe." "I never said that." His breathing changed. Shorter, faster. I sat on the floor across from him. "Lucas, look at the wall." He looked at the framed botanical print. "Name the green things." "Fern, border, lettering, lamp cord." "Good." His hands stopped moving. "What did you sign?" "A paper for support." "What support?" "She said it was so Hawthorne would let me visit." "Did she tell you it was permission to move there?" "No." "What do you want?" He stared at the suitcase. I want people to stop changing the question after I answer. That sentence broke something cleanly inside me. Not loudly. Not dramatically. A structural break, the kind that tells you a building cannot continue carrying the same weight. Downstairs, the doorbell rang. 7:30. The buyer. My mother called my name. I remained on the floor. Lucas, a man is here who thinks he bought this house. He did not ask me. No. Did he ask you? No, he considered that. Then he is bad at buying houses. Despite everything, I laughed. One short sound. Lucas zipped the suitcase. Are they taking me tomorrow? They plan to. Can I say no? Yes. Will they listen? I will. That was not the same as promising everything would work. It was the only promise I had the right to make. We went downstairs together. The buyer stood in the foyer. Simon Vale was in his early 50s, wearing khaki pants and a rain jacket. A teenage girl waited behind him, holding a measuring tape and a notebook. Natalie spoke rapidly. Simon, this is my sister Claire. There has been some emotional confusion about the transition. Simon looked at me. You're Claire Mercer? Yes. The owner? Yes. My mother stepped between us. I acted under power of attorney. Simon's daughter looked from one face to another. Simon removed his glasses. Did you approve the sale? No, Natalie gave a strained laugh. As I said, the family is working through details. The deed is recorded, my mother said. Simon stared at the moving boxes, then at Lucas. Who lives here? I do sometimes, Lucas said. My mother touched his shoulder. He's moving to a supported residence. Lucas stepped away from her hand. No, one syllable. The clearest word in the house. My mother's face tightened. Lucas, we discussed this. You discussed it. Simon looked at Natalie. You told me the property would be vacant. It will be. No, Lucas repeated. Simon closed his notebook. I'm not conducting a walkthrough tonight. Natalie lowered her voice. The closing is complete. I have title insurance. This can be resolved. I expect it will be. By attorneys. My mother looked at him. You're walking away from the house? I'm walking away from a family dispute I was told did not exist. His daughter tugged his sleeve. He nodded toward the door. Before leaving, he looked at me. I did not know. I believe you. That was all. No heroic stranger. No convenient rescue. Just a buyer who realized the thing he had purchased came with a lie large enough to cloud the title. When the door closed, my mother turned on Natalie. You said he was committed. He is committed. He's protecting himself. Call him. I'm not calling him while everyone is emotional. My mother looked at me. This is what you wanted. I found out this morning. You could have handled it privately. You invited relatives to watch you give me a moving box. I invited family because I believed you would behave like family. Lucas walked to the table. He picked up the empty box. He turned it once in his hands. Then he placed it beside his suitcase. Where am I going tomorrow? He asked. My mother's voice softened immediately. Hawthorne House. No. You haven't seen it. I said no before seeing it. You are afraid because Claire has confused you. I was confused before Claire came upstairs. Natalie approached him carefully. Lucas, Hawthorne has a greenhouse program. I have a greenhouse. They have people your age. I know people my age. They have 24-hour support. I do not need support while sleeping, my mother exhaled. This is exactly why professionals need to evaluate you. Lucas looked at her. Professionals ask questions. My mother's face changed. Pain moved through it. Real pain. She sat down. I am 67 years old, she said. My hands hurt every morning. I wake up at night afraid I will die before I know where you will be. Lucas remained standing. I did not ask you to die. I know. I did not ask you to do everything. I know. No. You say you know after deciding. My mother's eyes filled. For the first time that evening, the room stopped being a battle over property. It became what it had always been underneath. A mother terrified of leaving. A son terrified of being placed. A daughter whose life had been treated as the available bridge between them. Natalie sat beside our mother. We had to make a plan. You had to ask, I said. My mother looked at me. And if he made the wrong choice? Then we support him through consequences like any other adult. He is not any other adult. No one is. He cannot manage everything. Neither can you. She flinched. I continued more gently. You need help. Lucas needs help. That does not mean you get to take my house and his future in the same transaction. I gave 30 years to this family. I know. Do you? Yes. I know you sat in school meetings. I know you fought insurance companies. I know Dad left you with most of the daily work. I know Natalie and I built lives while you stayed on call. My mother began crying, quietly. I am tired, she said. You are allowed to be tired. No one acts like it. You are allowed to stop. Her eyes lifted. But you are not allowed to make stopping look like Lucas choosing Hawthorne, or me choosing to sell. Natalie folded her arms. So, what is your brilliant solution? The garden apartment. My mother shook her head immediately. No. Lucas picked up his green keycord from the box. Yes. You cannot live alone. I did 4 weekends. With Claire 20 yards away. That is not alone. What happens when she travels? My support worker comes. What support worker? Lucas went to the hallway cabinet. He removed a blue notebook. My house plan scam. He placed it on the table. Inside were pages he had prepared over the previous year. A weekly schedule. Medication reminders. The bus routes, emergency numbers, a monthly budget, a list of people he could call, a proposed support schedule, a page titled, Things I Need Help With, another, titled, Things I Do Not Need Help With. My mother turned the pages. Her hands trembled. You did this? Yes. With Claire. Some parts. Why didn't you show me? You say no before page 2. My mother closed the notebook. You don't understand how expensive support is. I wrote the cost on page 7. Natalie opened to page 7. Lucas had calculated his benefits, wages, expected rent, support worker hours, transportation, and groceries. It was not perfect, there were mistakes. The plan underestimated utility costs and overestimated his weekly food budget. It was still more preparation than my family had done before signing away my house. My mother stared at him. You can't decide your entire future from a notebook. No, he looked at the Hawthorne folder. But you decided mine from a brochure. Nobody spoke. The clock on Helen's mantel reached 8. Rain tapped the windows. The birthday candles had melted into the cake. My mother rubbed her hands. I already paid Hawthorne. With what? Her gaze shifted. Natalie answered, 5,000 from Mom's savings. The trust was supposed to reimburse her, I said. Yes. So if the sale fails, she loses the deposit. It is non-refundable. My mother looked at me. There it was. The additional pressure. Not enough to justify the theft. Enough to explain the desperation. She had risked money she could not afford because she believed the plan was already complete. What time are they coming? I asked. 9 tomorrow morning. For what? Transportation and intake. Lucas's breathing changed again. They are coming here? My mother reached for him. He backed away. You said visit. It will be easier if you see it. With a suitcase? She had no answer. I turned to Lucas. You do not have to get into that van. Can Mom make me? You do not have a legal guardian, my mother said. He signed. He did not give informed consent. You are not a lawyer. No, but I read documents for a living, and I know the difference between a signature and permission. Natalie stood. This conversation is over for tonight. No, Lucas said. She looked at him. He held the green keycord in one hand and the empty box in the other. This conversation started without me. It is not over when you are tired. Natalie sat down again. At 8:17 my phone rang. Priya. I put her on speaker. She explained the legal position in plain language. The deed had been recorded. That did not make it untouchable. The buyer's title insurer had already contacted our office after Simon reported the dispute. Because I denied authorizing the transaction and the sale proceeds had been redirected into a trust controlled by my agent, the insurer was freezing disbursement. An emergency filing could prevent transfer of possession while the authority and fiduciary issues were reviewed. My mother listened with her face set. Are you saying the sale is invalid? Natalie asked. I'm saying the title is disputed, Priya replied. and no reputable purchaser will take possession until it is resolved. What does Claire have to do? Nothing tonight, except refuse to ratify it. Everyone looked at me. There it was, the signature they still needed. My mother lowered her voice. Claire, the money is for Lucas. No, some of it is for Lucas. Some is for your condominium, Natalie's commission, and reimbursement you decided you were owed. I am owed. Perhaps you are. But not from a house you do not own. You would rather see me financially ruined? I would rather you stop sending me bills for decisions I never made. The words landed harder than I intended. My mother looked down. For one moment I saw the years in her hands, the appointments, the paperwork, the fear, the life she believed none of us appreciated until she converted it into a debt. I did not know how else to make you take this seriously, she said. You could have told me you were afraid. I did. No. You told me what you had decided. Priya gave me instructions for the morning. Then she ended the call. Natalie took my mother home. She asked Lucas to come. He refused. My mother stood in the doorway. You are choosing Claire over me. Lucas looked confused. I am choosing the garden apartment. That is not what I meant. It is what I mean. My mother left. The house became quiet. Not peaceful, quiet. Lucas and I cleaned the dining room. He scraped the misspelled name from the cake into the trash. I flattened the unused moving boxes. He kept the one my mother had handed me. Why? I asked. It is evidence. Of what? I don't know yet. At 10, we went to the garden apartment. The paint smelled faintly of wood and dust. Fern hollow walls, open shelves, a small table beneath the window. Lucas walked through each room. He checked the lock. He tested the stove. He looked into the empty closet. Can I stay here tonight? Yes. Will the van come? Yes. Can you tell them no? I can tell them you said no. What if they do not believe me? Then you say it. He was quiet. People think I am not sure when I speak slowly. I know. I am sure slowly. That may be the most accurate description of Lucas I have ever heard. He opened his notebook. We practiced no speech. I did not give him lines. I asked what he wanted the people from Hawthorne to understand. He wrote, I did not agree to move. I want to try the garden apartment. I accept support. I choose who helps. No van. At 11:30, he went to bed. I remained in the main house. The empty box sat on the dining table. I thought about Helen placing one in the blue bedroom when I was 16. Her box had represented choice. My mother's represented removal. Same object. Different permission. At 7:12 the next morning, Natalie returned with coffee. My mother came behind her. Neither had slept. Natalie placed a folder on the table. If Claire signs a corrective acknowledgement, the buyer may still proceed. I laughed once. You brought another document. We need options. No. You need my signature. The house sale could fund a better future for everyone. Everyone except me. You have more than the rest of us. That does not make my property communal. My mother walked past us toward the garden apartment. I blocked the door. Ask before entering. He is my son. And an adult. She looked at me with a fury so old it felt inherited. You have no idea what it means to be responsible for him. Then let him tell us what responsibility should look like now. At 8:46, a white passenger van entered the driveway. The side displayed the Hawthorne House logo. A woman in a navy coat stepped out with a clipboard. A male driver remained beside the van. The intake coordinator introduced herself as Melissa Grant. My mother greeted her first. Lucas is anxious this morning. Melissa nodded as though she had been told to expect resistance. That's common during transitions. It is not a transition, I said. He has declined admission. Melissa looked at me. Then you are? His sister, my mother said. The property situation has upset him. The property situation, I repeated. Melissa's professional expression tightened. May I speak to Lucas? Yes, my mother and I said at the same time. Then we looked at each other. Lucas opened the garden apartment door. He wore khaki pants, a green sweater, and the name badge from the botanical garden. He carried his blue notebook. No suitcase. Melissa smiled. Good morning, Lucas. I'm Melissa from Hawthorne House. I know. Your mother arranged for us to bring you for your intake. No. She paused. Would you like to tour first? No. Can you tell me what worries you? Yes. He opened the notebook. I did not agree to move. I want to try living in the garden apartment. I accept support Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and emergency support. I choose who helps. No van. Melissa looked at my mother. Mrs. Mercer, does Lucas have a legal guardian? My mother's answer came slowly. No. Is there a court determination that he lacks capacity to choose his residence? No. He signed an agreement, Natalie said. Melissa opened her file. We have an admission consent. His mother guided his hand, I said. Melissa stopped. She looked at Lucas. Did you understand this form was an agreement to move to Hawthorne House? No. Did you want to sign it? No. My mother stepped forward. He is repeating what Claire told him. Lucas looked at her. I wrote the list. You don't understand what will happen when Claire gets tired of this. Then we make another plan. Life is not that simple. No. His voice remained flat. But it is still my life. The van driver looked away. Natalie pressed her lips together. Melissa closed the folder. Hawthorne House cannot transport or admit an adult who is clearly refusing unless there is appropriate legal authority. My mother's face collapsed, not because she had lost a fight, because the system she trusted to carry her fear had handed the answer back to Lucas. I am trying to keep you safe, she said. I know. You don't know what can happen. I know some things. You could miss medication. Support worker, you could fall. Phone. You could panic. Claire. And if Claire is not here? Lucas looked at the notebook. Page 4. Even Melissa smiled slightly. My mother did not. Tears ran down her face. I cannot do this forever. Lucas closed the notebook. I did not ask forever. I am your mother. Yes. Then why does that mean nothing now? It means you can visit Sunday. The sentence was so simple my mother had no defense against it. Not rejection, a boundary, a place, a day, a relationship that did not require ownership. Natalie touched our mother's arm. We should go. My mother looked toward the house, at the moving boxes, at the van, at the property she had already reorganized in her mind. Then she said the sentence again. Not to me this time. To Melissa. Claire can make a home anywhere. Lucas needs stability. Lucas answered before I could. Then stop moving me. No one spoke. That was the moment. Not the title dispute, not the canceled van, not the buyer leaving. The moment the family sentence stopped working. For 30 years, my mother had used Lucas's need for stability to justify moving everything and everyone around him. Rooms, schedules, money, my plans. His choices. She had created so much motion in the name of keeping him still that none of us had noticed the contradiction. Melissa canceled the intake. The deposit remained disputed between my mother and Hawthorne House. The van left empty. My mother stood in the driveway until it turned the corner. Then she looked at me. You got what you wanted. No? What else could you possibly want? I want you to believe that asking him is not losing him. She turned away. The title dispute took 7 weeks to resolve. Simon Vale withdrew from the purchase. His deposit was returned. The title insurer accepted that the transaction could not safely stand without my ratification. My mother's use of the power of attorney and diversion of funds created enough legal exposure that her attorney advised settlement. The deed was rescinded. The property returned to my name. The trust was dissolved. The sale proceeds had never been released. Natalie lost the commission. Her brokerage opened an internal review after learning she had represented a transaction involving her sister's property without confirming direct consent. She was not fired. Real consequences are rarely as cinematic as people expect. She received a formal reprimand, paid part of the legal costs, and stopped speaking to me for 9 months. I formally revoked every power of attorney my mother held. I placed a fraud alert on the property. I changed the locks. I gave Lucas a new key. Not because the old one had stopped working, because he wanted one that had never passed through anyone else's hands. The green cord stayed. The garden apartment did not become a fairy tale solution. The first month was difficult. Lucas forgot to take his evening medication twice. He left groceries on the bus. A smoke alarm malfunction sent him into the yard without shoes. He called my mother 4 times one night because the heating system made a new sound. My mother interpreted every problem as proof. I interpreted them as information. We adjusted. A support worker named Andre came 3 mornings and 2 evenings each week. Lucas paid rent based on his income. He bought groceries. He continued working at the botanical garden. He learned to use a banking app with spending limits. He ate pasta too often. He called me when the greenhouse fan made the metal sound. He was not suddenly independent. He became more involved in the support he received. That was the goal. My mother did not visit for 6 weeks. Then one Sunday, she appeared at the front gate carrying a casserole. She did not use her old key. She knocked. I answered. "I'm here to see Lucas." "Did you call?" He said Sunday. He did. I stepped aside. Then I stopped. "His door is around back." My mother looked toward the garden apartment. "You're making me knock at my own son's home." "Yes." She closed her eyes. Then she walked around the house. From the kitchen window, I watched her stand outside Lucas's green door. She lifted her hand. She knocked 3 times. Lucas opened it. He did not hug her. He took the casserole. She stayed for 40 minutes. The following Sunday, she called first. Progress is sometimes nothing more than a person repeating the respectful version of an action until it becomes natural. Natalie took longer. Her anger centered on the idea that I had embarrassed her professionally. My anger centered on the fact that she had listed my house. Those positions did not create much room. Then, 8 months later, she mailed me a padded envelope. Inside was the silver E missing from my birthday cake. She had found it beneath the dining cabinet while helping our mother pack for a smaller apartment. There was no letter, only the letter E. My name completed too late. I kept it, not because it repaired anything, because incomplete apologies are still information. My mother eventually sold her own house. Her decision, her signature, her proceeds. She moved into a 2-bedroom condominium 20 minutes away. The second bedroom was not reserved for Lucas. That had been his request. She used part of the money to hire help with cleaning and errands. The first time she paid someone to do work she had always expected family to absorb, she called me furious about the hourly rate. I told her care had always cost that much. We simply had not been paying the people who provided it. She hung up. Then called the cleaner back. A year after the birthday dinner, Lucas invited the family to the garden apartment. Not for a holiday, for dinner. He cooked baked potatoes, salad, and chicken from a recipe Andre had taught him. My mother arrived on time. Natalie came late and stood outside until Lucas opened the door. There were no assigned seats, no family meeting, no forms. After dinner, Lucas brought out the empty moving box my mother had placed in front of me. He had kept it flattened beneath his bed. He unfolded it and placed it in the center of the room. My mother's face changed. "What is that for?" she asked. Lucas handed each of us a marker. On one side he had written, "Things other people decided for me." He wrote first, "Where I live." Then he handed the marker to me. I wrote, "What I can lose." Natalie stared at the box for a long time. Then she wrote, "What counts as practical?" My mother did not take the marker. Lucas waited. He was good at waiting when the rest of us became uncomfortable. Finally, she wrote, "What safe means?" Lucas closed the box. "What are you going to put inside?" I asked. "Nothing." "Why?" He looked at all of us. "It is not storage." He carried the box outside. Beside the greenhouse stood a paper recycling bin. He placed it inside. Then he returned to the apartment and locked the door behind him. Not against us. For himself. That was the ceremony. No speech, no judge, no applause. Just an empty box being discarded, because no one in that house needed it to carry a life someone else had packed. I turned 40 believing my family had sold my home. In truth, they had exposed the rules we had been living under for years. My mother believed caregiving gave her authority. Natalie believed efficiency made consent optional. I believed surviving loss meant I should keep absorbing it. All of us believed Lucas's need for support meant his preferences could be edited out of the plan. We were wrong in different ways. The deed returned to me. But ownership was never the deepest thing I recovered. I recovered the right to say that my flexibility was not a family asset. Lucas recovered the right to be sure slowly. My mother began learning that fear could be shared without becoming an order. And Natalie began knocking. The house still stands. The greenhouse fan still makes a metal sound every few months. Lucas still lives in the garden apartment. Some weeks go smoothly. Some do not. That is what a real life looks like when no one is hiding the difficult parts to make the ending cleaner. On my 41st birthday, Lucas gave me a small wooden box he had made at a community workshop. Unlike the cardboard one, this box was not empty. Inside was a new house key on a blue cord. A note rested beneath it. His handwriting was careful. "You can live here too." I laughed when I read it. "This is my house." "I know. Then why are you giving me a key?" "Because owning and being invited are different." Helen would have liked that. My family sold my house because they thought legal access was the same as permission. They moved my brother on paper because they thought love was the same as authority. They handed me one empty box because they believed the person who could recover from losing everything was the easiest person to take from. But being adaptable does not make your boundaries temporary. Being capable does not make your property communal. And loving someone who needs support does not give you the right to replace their voice with your fear. Sometimes quiet justice is not a family collapsing. Sometimes it is a deed being corrected, a van leaving empty, a mother knocking. The brother holding his own key, and one cardboard box finally carrying nothing at all. That's my story. One stolen house, one unsigned future, and one sentence my family will never use the same way again. You can make a home anywhere. Maybe I can. That does not mean anyone else gets to decide when I have to.